if you give us too much shit, we'll just get pissed off and quit. So don't do it. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show, telling you everything that we know. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show. Let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics Podcast, episode 86. That's legacy number 586. And we have a bunch of books. We have a bunch of books for you this week. I'll be joined, as always, with my man Matt and also Gray. And one of the things that you'll hear me talk about is that when me and Matt end up deciding to do what we're reviewing, we end up doing that first. It's usually Monday. This week coming up, you're going to end up, which would be next week or whatever, you're going to get a lot more of Gray, I believe, because Matt is actually on a trip for business. That's what we call a business trip in the business, but in the business of the business trip. But in the meantime, I got a hold of him and said, hey, here's the books. These are the books. These are the big ones. And he's like, yeah, we should read or review the Spider-Man Godzilla. And I was like, really? Because I looked through that and I didn't like it that much. And he's like, no. It's really, it's good. And then we talked about it. I don't know what he was talking about. I think he might have lost his mind. That's what ended up happening. You'll hear us talk about that in a little bit. An issue that if you don't like Nick Lowe, it's really going to drive you nuts. If you do like Nick Lowe, you might change your mind. And I haven't met anybody who even says that. So we'll see what's going on, as I believe my dog is chasing the cats around the basement here. So I don't know what's happening. But in the meantime, as I said, we have a bunch of books this week. I hope that we are expanding the coverage a little bit. Usually I'd go off to some news, but we will just jump into the books this week. And we're still, as I said, developing some things. We're still percolating, still trying to get some things going. So I hope that you bear with us and grin, as they say. But that is it for the intro. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. And here we go to the books. All right, and here we go. Here we go, and I'm here to start everything, as always, with Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
What is up is these books that you made me do. We didn't really have that many choices anyway, but you said that you liked the Godzilla and told me then it's Joe Kelly.
I didn't know that.
And it's pretty good, you said. I actually thought all these were, who was it who was doing it? What's his name? I don't remember the first one. But then you ended up having that, him, the guy with the hair.
I just remember John Romita on one of them. That's all.
Yeah. I'm telling you that the art has been okay.
Yeah.
With these, it's the stories, and it started out Fantastic Four, and Jerry Duggan is who I was thinking. I think did the last one, and it was okay. Stork hated it. He hated that Godzilla Hulk so much, but we didn't mind it that much. We were kind of going through it and whatnot. But now here we are, and we have Spider-Man. And I said at the end of last time we talked about that Hulk deal that I believe that what will happen is that Godzilla will get the symbiote, and we'll see what goes on from there. Because you saw that on the back, you had the symbiote suit with Spider-Man, and that's all it's been. It's pretty much been, what power of whoever are they going to give Godzilla, and how does that work out? This one, it's a bit forced. I know these are for fun, but usually when something's for fun, I have fun. I did not have fun with this. You'll see, I'm not real hip on this. You think I have a vendetta? I just may. One of the things, though, in that, me and you both are so annoyed by Nick Lowe. And boy, that guy, he cannot keep himself out of this issue. It is just constant of these editors' notes.
Every page has like two.
Yeah, I get the joke, but it doesn't mean that I laugh at it, because it gets too much. And then even him answering himself in these editor's notes, and it's the classic editor's notes for the most part. Some of it is legit. Then we're going to pretend that there's other things going on that didn't, and we're just going to play this game. But
because it starts off kind of in continuity, then it breaks off.
Yeah, and with it, I know that these things aren't really happening, but it's just weird. It's one of those of, you make it a joke by telling too much jokes, and it became more of a joke than it being funny to me, and it just keeps reminding me of all the stuff that I've read recently of Joe Kelly that I have not liked. But it's Joe Kelly writing, Nick Bradshaw on art, Rachel Rosenberg on colors, VC's Joe Chiarmagna on letters. And again, I'm sure that some people, the complaint would be, well, Jim, why are you upset about a Godzilla versus Spider-Man deal? And I like having the fun with it, and I like doing it, but it just almost feels like when it gets to this, it gets almost like a book that I don't like, a DC Metamorpho, the deal with Al Ewing, where you're no longer seemingly having fun. You're just like, screw it. I'm just going to throw all this out there, and I'm just going to make it a joke, like I said. And that's how it feels. And even from the beginning, I don't know, when you end up where Spider-Man comes in and says, so rocking this fool's clock, I just don't like
I didn't get that one.
I just don't like his dialogue. At one point, you have one of the worst lines, but you said they try to make it work with Mary Jane and Black Cat kind of making fun of it, but that doesn't make it better. It was still in there, but it's Spider-Man just out of Secret Wars. They're going to tell that to you a bunch of times. He has the symbiote suit. He thinks it's A-okay. He's pretty cool, and he's fighting Shocker. And Shocker is upgraded, but that just allows Peter to say, so is he. And they go back and forth. And even at one point, he's yelling at Shocker. It's like, sport all the new gear you want, Shocker. Inside, you're still the same loser. And they goes, man, I sound just like J. Jonah Jameson. And then you go back to that, and everything seems to be, hey, remember this, but in a way of everything's just a joke. And it just kind of throws me.
They're trying to catch you up with what's going on with the status quo from 40 years ago.
Now, again, this is where I think that then as we talk about it, this is why I like talking about the things where you're right. It is trying to get you in line with the status quo. We ended up talking the last issue. Okay, when do you think this is? And we're kind of like, yeah, it's probably like 78, 79, somewhere around there. The Fantastic Four, like, yeah, that seems like it's about like 64. And really, you throw it in once you get the Silver Surfer, who was actually retired on Earth. So you get those plays. In this, he just really wants to throw everything at you when that's really not why we're here. Once you say, I just got back from Battle World and I fought in a secret war, you have now nailed down pretty much exactly when it is happening.
It's 1986 to 1988.
Yeah, you do not need to keep going and keep going and keep going. Let's get Godzilla. Let's see Godzilla and what's going to happen. The problem is there's really not anything that he can do when you end up having the Hulk versus Godzilla. First off, story will tell us that they never really fought, but I could see it, right? You know, Fantastic Four, you end up getting the Power Cosmic. Peter Parker Spider-Man is not going to be able to fight Godzilla.
He didn't fight him at all. Not one punch.
So it's not going to happen anyway. So come up with a better thing to do than just say, and lo and behold, in this, you get and veer away from continuity anyway, because it's Godzilla. So why are you nailing down exactly the deal? But you have some fun things, I guess. You have, Black Cat and Peter are dating. MJ comes back from the West Coast and finds this out, gets pissed. Also, Peter's not aware that she knows that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, so
all these things go.
Supposedly, this is where he finds out that she knew his identity. I mean, that's how it happened.
Here's the thing, though, and that's the it's having fun, but it's actually trying to, like, wink, wink, these are one thing, because this seems to be when he realizes that the symbiote's an alien.
Yeah, that too. They're consequential things happening.
This issue, if it did come out in the 80s, it would be the biggest issue that has ever happened.
People would still be talking
all the
about
things,
it.
right? All the things that happen in it. Crazy. But when they do, you're just like, oh, okay. Like, you just kind of roll your eyes. Like, really? That's when it was? But yeah, and you have all these things going. Like, Peter's so happy about the symbiote costume because, hey, I don't even have to change. It morphs into this. It does this. This is great. And then you just have him fighting Shocker again. And he ends up where Godzilla shows up. And again, when you're looking at that Spider-Man and Godzilla shows up and it's just wrecking New York City, there is no way that Peter Parker Spider-Man is going to be able to fight
No way. I mean,
Godzilla. No
I
way.
just want to call out too, like the artist Nick Bradshaw. You probably don't have any connection to him at all. He hasn't done any interiors probably in 10 years. Just covers. So that's why. Look how detailed everything is. I mean, it's pretty.
I like when Godzilla shows up.
Yeah, just look at the backgrounds and the water and the everything.
Right now, I think that after that spread page with Godzilla hitting New York City, at least 100,000 people dead.
He's like basically standing in the ocean in the city, which is crazy.
Yeah. And at that point, he just comes in. And Peter says to Shocker, hey, time out. I got to deal with this. And he's like, yeah. And then even then, it's like, yeah, great idea. And then he leaves Shocker hanging up with a crazy note. And then Shocker says, I got to rethink my life choices. Like everything is like, I think with Joe Kelly for me is everything is just that extra thing too much. Like he does things and then he has to add that next joke to end things that always studs. I just never find it funny. And again, he is more known as a Deadpool writer. And I think that that's how he writes Spider-Man. I think that he has ever since I've read anything of his. And it just throws me. But yeah, Godzilla, at one point though, Godzilla comes crashing in and then kind of walks gingerly through the city. Then he hits some things, but people are just dying left and right. What is Spider-Man going to do? When it's Spider-Man, you just then wonder, what is the Fantastic Four doing right now? Like everybody's back from Secret Wars. They should all be joining him because Spider-Man can't do much, but he ends up seeing Mary Jane has come back from the West Coast, went to Peter's apartment. Peter's apartment's getting wrecked. So he goes back and goes, oh no, there's Mary Jane. And yells, jump, Mary Jane. She's like, what?
It's already halfway out the window, so.
Yeah, and so she even says, and all of this ends up being, I picked the wrong day to make my big return to Manhattan. And then you have Nick Lowe with magnetic Mary Jane Watson's making hay. I can't even read it. Making hay in Hollywood as an actress, model, or something. And then later she says she's a model, and then you have to have the next one. Oh, yeah, she's a model. Right.
But it is annoying as hell, but it actually is kind of right. Like, it's so confusing what she was doing out there that kind of, it's just.
That has nothing to do with Godzilla.
Yeah,
it's not a Godzilla thing. It's you're more, this again, what this seems to be doing, unless I'm wrong, it's not about Peter versus Godzilla. It's let's make fun of how much crap was going on in the 80s. That it seems like a book that's just like, let's poke fun at the 80s Marvel comics. And by the way, Godzilla's in the background.
Yeah,
Godzilla's doing things. So I don't care about that stuff. If I want to read the 80s Spider-Man, I will. I know that's the time frame, but really what you're doing is saying how ridiculous things were. And then it ends up being jokey because once Black Cat shows up and says, hey, lover, what's going on? Also, Mary Jane reveals, I know it's you. Another editor's note. And then, then Felicia's like, hey, I should tell Peter about my bad luck powers. Editor's note. It's everything is an editor's note. And it's supposed to continue the joke. It just annoys me. And most of them are at the beginning legit. Like, oh, you didn't know that she got the bad luck powers from Kingpin? Ooh, if Peter finds out, whatever. And then later it just becomes Nick Lowe talking to himself.
Yeah, because it goes off the rails.
Yeah, it just goes completely off the rails. Yeah. And so, yeah, Mary Jane and Black Cat are hanging together. At one point, they're kind of, trying to save some people, but they're more bitching and moaning about Peter and how ridiculous he is and how he has bad jokes because he ends up where he decides the only way that I can end up stopping the deal. And with that, too, Godzilla roars and the symbiote screams and jumps off of Peter. And then Peter from there jumps to the conclusion, sonics affect the symbiote. I would have just thought that the thing got scared and crapped its pants because of Godzilla. I'd run too, wouldn't you?
So that's the other thing. He didn't know it was an alien until this moment. So.
Yeah, and then he says, oh, I get it. It screamed and jumped off me because it's an alien. I'm like, you are jumping to a lot of conclusions,
You needed Reed Richards to figure that one out.
So, again, it's playing fun. I wish that what they did, if they were going to play this deal, is at one point something happens where, boom, continuity goes askew and they kind of go and he's like, man, it's like crazy stuff going on right now. But it's just what it is.
You mean when the Venom suit takes over Godzilla? That's not crazy enough?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, something in this is fracturing the timeline or my skull. Because then you even have at the end, you want to make it big again? This is where Eddie Brock gets this.
Yeah, why throw that in again? And also freaking Null.
Yeah, Null's thrown in retroactively. It's like, really? Like, this is what you're doing?
That's way retroactive.
Yeah, so
never
there
a part
you go.
of it.
Well, it's fun times. You told me you love this thing. So you end up where Godzilla roars and the symbiote jumps off him. But then for some reason, it goes on to Godzilla because of Null wanting the destruction of everything and all the misery. And I'll tell you right now, this looks ridiculous. When you had hulked up Godzilla last issue, I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. You end up having power cosmic. Okay, that was cool, I thought. But I don't even know how I describe this. It looks like he's got like a moo-moo on, where he's running around and he's got a venom tongue is basically the main thing.
Yeah, the venom tongue and that ice stuff or whatever those fins are.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. So he's there. Now Peter is like, oh my God, what is going to go on? Again, before there was no way for him to stop him. Now it's a venomized Godzilla whose now tongue is going around like it's Gene Simmons on a Sunday, is wrecking things. You end up having fighter jets swooping through the canyons of buildings in New York City. It's firing on everybody's dying. They're dropping bombs in the middle of New York City. Well, all that's going on. You end up where Mary Jane and Felicia are like trying to save some people. Go this way, go that way.
Standing underneath its ass.
Oh,
basically, like
moly. And he's
crazy. The fighter jets are crashing too.
Oh my God, they're crashing into buildings. It's like mayhem going on. And the symbiote burrows in and tries to take control of Godzilla's body, feeding off the endless energy within, corrupting the kaiju's purpose. And the cancer begins to spread. I'm like, I don't even like the narration. And so it's lashing out. It's trying to go. And then out of nowhere, you get Peter, who has tied pants to his head to make him look like he has bunny ears. He put on some, I think he had shorts on earlier, but he ends up, and I'm just looking, because I swear to God, when it happened, he had shorts. He just ran to get sweatpants. And then in that, he also, where you have an editor's note, because again, it's so ridiculous that they're like, oh, now he has Shuckers thinks you have an editor's note that says, you know, hey, all of this happened off panel. And I'm like, get out of town.
Well, he's referencing the bombastic bag man, which is when he put a bag over his head and was wearing a Fantastic Four.
So they do that and then say the first person who names this new suit gets a no prize.
Want to be the first one?
Yeah, I do. I call it complete and utter bullshit. So I think I got it. It's BS, man, is what you got there. Somebody's going to, like, where the hell are you going to have it? If you're really going to do this, make it something. But they're not. But that's where all of a sudden Peter's flying on his goblin flyer type deal. He's got the Shockers gauntlets, and it says, for the full story of how Spidey got back into his original suit, Union suit, science Shockers gear, and liberated the Mole Man Kingdom in the process, check out the upcoming Tangle Web of Spider-Man miniseries, Plot Holes. Until now, I'm like, that's when I really wanted to punch the screen. And hopefully Nicola would feel it, because I was like, I got to get out of here. Because then he says, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to run into Godzilla. I'm going to get him with the Shocker Gauntlet. He knows that this is what's going to get the symbiote out because it's an alien. But he says, to paraphrase the words of Melissa Matheson, who helped little Stevie Spielberg send an alien off right, E.T. go hell. Yep.
E.T. go hell.
E.T. go hell. And then you
not
end
even
up
go
where,
to hell, just go hell instead of go
hell
home.
because of go home. It's the worst. And then
But
you
that
end
works
up
as a
where,
sentence, though. Go home works. Go hell doesn't.
Well, because he's just an idiot. Joe Kelly's a hack. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it since the nonstop Spider-Man since. Everything has been terrible. So I like this less than ASM. And I hate that. So you end up, and the art is good. So my score is going to, but the writing in this is abysmal.
For me, it's that's all it is.
Yeah, the writing in this is completely like, oh, I'm going to be a funny guy, and it's just unreadable.
It's like that nervous energy when there's silence and people just say shit.
Yeah, just say shit.
Yeah.
Or it's one of those where you have that buddy who you feel bad for the guy because he's a little slow. And he ends up making up jokes and everybody laughs, but then the guy thinks he's funny and then keeps going and goes too long with it and says the same damn joke and you want to kill him. So you have this and it's like, I like where then Mary Jane says, so it's the humor that keeps you and Lover together. And then Black Cat says, I think I prefer the strong silent type. You can have them. No backsies. I'll pay you. I'm like, I don't want to curse too much. Curse too much.
At least Mary Jane's in this, though. That's what people want.
Yeah. Mary Jane looks like she's packing below or something that they're drawing. And I mean, in a weird way. You end up where she's like, then you end up where Peter ends up on Godzilla, but then the symbiote ends up becoming its own Godzilla kaiju that attacks Godzilla. They fight it off, and then you have them blast them. And the gamma blast or whatever the hell, and then it dissipates at the end. And then Peter yells, "Oh man, yes, we won! Hey!" And says, "You don't have to tell me twice. All future Spidey suits will be made in the USA by me." And then Godzilla goes off into the ocean because Godzilla gave him a snort about like, "Hey, you had that symbiote suit." Though again, why the hell was Godzilla there in the first place? He said that the symbiote suit drew him there.
Every now and then he shows up.
But he did say, like, I think that the suit, this issue has nothing going on. And yeah, even the symbiote Godzilla looked ridiculous.
You didn't like when he ripped that big dirty tongue out of his mouth?
No, I didn't like any of it. So again, the art was okay. But yeah, Godzilla goes off.
Problem.
Yeah, Godzilla goes off into the ocean. And then they're like, oh, man. And even then, it's like, oh, man, we got to clean up now. There are so many people dead. And then Eddie Brock goes and finds a camera of a dead guy.
He pulls it off his dead photographer.
And then says, oh, man, I'm going to get these shots. Now I can really take it to Peter Parker. And by the way, now I'm a symbiote. Oh, no. And even then, it's like, why does Brock hate Peter? The answer to that only can be found in the Epic Amazing Spider-Man number 300.
It's God Venom, though.
God Venom. Just get out of here. And then it says next Godzilla. Godzilla versus X-Men.
To me, these have been art showcases. So
yeah, I actually each one is getting worse in my mind. And that X-Men, I think we're done. Again, you could say, well, it's just for fun. I didn't have any fun.
That's Ruben.
They're not talking about this on the. They're not going to talk about that on the Marvel. podcast.
Just in spirit.
Or the X-Men podcast at all. If it actually came out this week, they might have. There's not a lot of X-Men books, so yeah. Once you come back, but boy, this isn't great. But what would you give it?
This one's all art for me. When I saw, and I didn't even realize it was Joe Kelly and X-Men. That definitely drops me a score. I'll go 6.
And that's 5 of art. How much
this is all art for me.
It's just, yeah. Again, I wish that Godzilla Venom, but even then, it's like, okay. It's almost at the point of like, oh, Godzilla Venom, I get it. See, I said that's what was going to happen. So.
God Venom doesn't work because it's not enough of the Godzilla part.
Yeah. It just was just odd, but I didn't like it. But we'll move on to the next book, which I didn't like either. So I don't know what's going on here. This is where we've had some problems, even when we go and we try to review stuff that we like, but there's some weeks that you don't get that. But here you go. It's Hellhunters. It's the finale. It's Hellhunters number 5. It is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Adam Gorham, colors by Frank Martin, VC's Travis Lanham on letters. And this is one of the series, I would say that it's one of the better things at Marvel, though it's not been great. And it's been forced. And last issue seemed like I was starting to rush things. And this issue, definitely, it feels like Philip Kennedy Johnson had one foot out the door while he was writing this to like get the hell done with it and move on, as if like maybe it was going to be something bigger. And then they said, no, it's just this. And then he's like, whatever, because I do like Philip Kennedy Johnson, but boy, this thing fell flat at the end. And Adam Gorham's art, there were times I didn't even know what was going on. These characters, and I told you at one point, and I'll probably notice it even more as we go, so many times in this issue, you have people talking off panel to lead you to like, oh man, I got to turn that page.
Who's that going to be? Yeah.
You're already reading it. And so when you have it, it was annoying. It ended up like, even right away, nice one, Nick. And then you turn, you're like, I don't know who said it. Then you get with the, the whole play of the Soldier Supreme, you end up having this Romero as the Ghost Rider. He barely, like, there's been no character to him, right? It's just him
Not
being
really, no, he's just a Ghost Rider,
right? And he ended up giving up his deal. He accepted the whole Ghost Rider deal in the Vengeance because he was hanging in the forest and ended up being killed by the Nazis, who then ended up also killing all his buddies. But since then, not really anything at all. And then when you even have the deal of the Soldier Supreme, I said before, like, he said, oh, I can, get this thing going and I'm going to make it's going to be the worst nightmare possible for anybody who takes us. And we end up having like weird guns and stuff. In this, then, he's just turning everybody into demons, but it never really plays. Everything seems like when it happens, you're like, oh, yeah, that happened. Or when did that happen? And things like that. It just was weird because you end up having this Nazi who, again, I'll tell people that most of the time in this, I can barely remember anybody's name because they've never really done anything. And what do I know about the Unhallowed? They all look the
same, too.
Yeah, they do. And then you have Ghost Rider, the Spirit of Vengeance. Then it's like taking down the deal with Sethiel and all these things thrown into this. And I just really, I don't really like this much at all. And I think it's a real kind of thud. Because there's just a big battle. You said at one point, like, how are they going to explain this? Like, this is supposed to really be happening.
You said it was in continuity, so
that's what they say. But at the end, what does it matter? At the end, how they play it is, ooh, nobody's going to ever find out about this one. And then
everybody in the world would know this happened. This is crazy stuff.
It ends up where this Bruckner, he's there and he's this crazy demon, and he just talks shit the whole time. He's just there talking, and at one point, you end up where Bucky says, oh, man, you're so sick of us. Well, we brought a Canadian. And then Q and Wolverine, who comes in and punches him. And then punches him and goes, where are you from, bub? Bremen? Dusseldorf? Off panel, you get another sniveling little pansy who can't shut up about how superior. Why do you do that off panel? And then it ends up where, out of nowhere, the Captain America shield comes and whaps this guy a couple times and says, every Nazi I ever met talks that way, off panel, to turn then and see maybe the only way you can tell is because you have Bucky say, nice throw, Peg. I thought that Cap showed up.
That would be cool.
And Cap was with them at the one time, but they couldn't spare him to fight. But this fight becomes so big with all these things. And even Bruckner saying, hey, every soldier we kill becomes one of our guys. So I thought maybe Cap decided to join in. Nope. It was pegging. All you get is the shield whapping. And not even, actually you don't. You get thwonk, walk, whack. Then the shield burning, falling down.
Yeah, why is it on fire?
Yeah, and then I guess because she has hellfire, because she's got demon
wings. Where did she get the shield?
Look at her. She doesn't even look like her. It looks like her hair grew like 10 feet more. And then she says, just can't imagine. They might be wrong. And I'm like, oh, was you said that? That wasn't as good. And then it's just like, move on to the next deal. And yeah, they end up where they are all.
You see Bucky's little firearm he has?
Yeah. He says later that he wishes he had that firearm still.
And then I guess Logan's using fire claws, not as real.
Yeah, he's got that, and he's got, spikes and shit coming out of him. But the art is not really good. So they're there yelling about things, and then all of a sudden they're yelling, get off the ice. At one point they're yelling, hey, Bucky, sing your song. It looks like they're running away. He starts singing, and then they start yelling, get off the ice. I thought that was part of the song.
Well, the ice is fine, but like when you're riding flaming motorcycles over the top.
That would be a problem. Also, It's rumbling because up from below, now the big bad Salthiel.
It's what is the name? Oh, Calthiel?
Calthiel.
Like Raphael, but
like Raphael, but Calthiel comes out. And now that's the big bad.
But it's not even the big one. The other one's the woman, Alexandra.
Yeah, she's like, this is the herald. She's there, and I think that we'll end up where that'll become a thing later. No, because then it's the Unhallowed to come. Now it's this big ice monster demon. They line up and say, what are we going to do with that? And all you get then is Romero in his plane comes swooping in, using the deal, because then Bruckner jumps up there and they start yelling. I'm telling you, it's like
the Twilight Zone with the gargoyle on the plane.
Yeah, and he's yelling, and they're going. And
what happens here? So he's flying the plane, freaking out, right? And then he's also shooting guns too.
Yeah. He's got that. He also has his chains that he's got Bruckner with, and then they fly into and through this giant Sephiel. And I'm like, man, that didn't take much. He flew his Ghost Rider plane through him, and he just shatters. But then he kind of falls apart. And I even thought, like, in that, I guess it's him, but it's not. But it's him. And then they're dying, but they're not. And then at the end, you just end it.
Who's getting pulled into the water?
I thought at first that it was Bruckner, but I think it might be Romero. I don't know.
It's not Calfiel?
No, no, Calfiel is like the big guy. I don't know. I'm telling you.
It's not a Nazi youth? I don't know. Why does he have those bubbles? I don't know what that is.
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe we're dummies, but it's like pulling them. And then in that, you also have Zarathos in a deal yelling about Calfiel, and that going back and forth, and the idea of the Soldier Supreme saying, we can't really use the Zarathos powers because the demon, that's the devil, he's going to come and get payment. And I'm like, why? What just happened? Because this book just ended in just everybody flying around, just fighting and doing things that was wet. The choreography was terrible. The art was very...
And it gets worse, too. This next page where they're back at that camp is, like, worse than, like, you'd find in one of those web comics.
When you see 2 days later, what are those? Figures made of clay?
Why does this guy get the same page rate as everybody else?
I don't know, because it's bad. It is really bad. Like, there's no detail at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, and the fun thing is, here's Bucky's picking his nose.
With a glove on, which you got when you're picking your nose, it's got to be tactile, right? A glove wouldn't work.
No, I wouldn't put a glove. I swear, I think he's snorted coke or whatever.
It's impossible to pick your nose with a glove.
He's snorting some heroin, some H. And even then, you don't sit there like he's not moving it. He just looks like he has his finger stuck up his nose. It's like not even looks like he's picking. You got to twist it. Do a little like those lines to make it look like he's twisting, digging for gold. He's just there. Then he sniffs because he wanted a bump.
Stink too.
Guy's all high. And even that the general comes in, he's like, he's so upset about a kid picking his nose. Then he starts yelling about how Bucky's AWOL. I'm like, he's freaking 8. he didn't go away, but I don't know if he's officially there. But yeah, they're yelling, and this guy's like, what do we say? Even that, like, the best is at the end. This is me, legit. The guy's like, oh man, what do we got here? We got a Canadian. We got this guy who has a handlebar mustache like he's Hulk Hogan. We got a young kid picking his nose, and we got Nick Fury. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot Nick Fury was in this. Also, he says, and a woman. I swear to God, I'm like, oh yeah, Nick Fury's in this one. And he's like, well, what do you think you would do, Nick Fury, if you were me? Like, how am I supposed to till the brass? They're going to eat my shorts like it's, dog eat dog world, and I got Alpo underwear. And then they just walk away and go, man, we're getting the silver star for this one? And then Nick goes, yeah, that ain't happening. That's it. Oh, yeah. And then Bucky's like, man, I wish I had that flame arm. It's pretty cool. And then the Soldier Supreme goes, yeah, if you did get them powers, don't use them, kid, because that's the damn powers of Zarathos, and you got to bargain with the devil. And then Bucky's like, screw it. I'm going to kind of die later and get mind controlled by the Russians, so I don't give a shit.
I'll get my cool arm.
Wouldn't that be great? He's like, I'm going to fall off a thing. Like, screw it. I'll do whatever. And plus, I got gold up in these hills. He starts picking his nose again.
It's funny because the way Bucky died, or whatever, fell off the plane or whatever, is nothing compared to what he went through in this.
Yeah.
That's why you got to be careful with that stuff.
Remember, at first, he's like, hey, anybody got a knife? I got to cut these Nazis' ears off and make me a necklace. And then he's going on, and at the end, it's like, he's got devil powers. He's popping wheelies on a Ghost Rider motorcycle.
He would definitely have survived that fall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that you could play it out. That's because he's got the demon blood now. I'm telling you, Hulk Hogan over there. Yeah, and Wolverine. Wolverine's like, I'm going back to Canada. This stuff sucks. But, yeah, and then at the end, you see Romero kind of fishing himself out, I guess.
We know he lives because he's in the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, well, and also, but you have, like, this Romero, he's got, like, a bandage around his head? I don't know.
That's
And
just
then
way-
it looks like that.
crappy art.
In my mind, they're going to go after the Japanese now. It looks like you have the rising sun going, like that's supposed to be the wink wink, but I don't have any idea. I don't know. It was weird. It was not real well played out in this last issue, and it just kind of ends.
Started off strong too.
Yeah, but I said, like, I'm telling you, I think Philip Kennedy Johnson's a good writer. I don't love Stephanie Phillips, but give me the Cat Wolf any day. That was at least goofy fun throughout. This tried to be serious at one point. You have a thing that really you're setting up. Okay, you got this. The crew's cool, right? You have that. They're going to end up having Sorcerer Supreme stuff going on, plus Ghost Rider, Magic Demon stuff. And he got too involved again in lore of the like, why? Just go and have fun with it. And then at the end, it becomes nothing. I never was connected to any of the characters. Barely can tell you why they were even there together. Like, we even said about Peggy, and that stuff was just weird. And then at the end, I did like the guys, like, and a woman? What does this world come to? But yeah, it just ended up where
it's the thing is, it's supernatural Ghost Rider. We get that, but that doesn't mean everything else has to be supernatural nonsense. Just have them fighting regular Nazis or whatever.
You're fighting Nazis. Have each person do their thing. You have Wolverine. He doesn't need to be demon.
We don't need
guy
a whole
with
backstory
horns.
of this crap. It's
It was very odd. And again, what I knew at the end was, Bucky, Wolverine, Peggy, that. Once you start having the Bruckner, the Unhollow, the Witch from Russia, this, I'm like, oh, God darn it, like, why? Because at the end, it mattered little. And then they took the guy down by flying a plane right through him, and that was it. It ended up being so lackluster by the end, and the art was not good. Not good at all. It was tough to follow, but what would you give this?
5. Like, maybe a special 5.
Yeah, I think I'm a 4. I think I'm a 4 with it. And we started out where we're like, this is pretty cool. Like, once they start, it also really, it got way too big, right? I mean, at one point, it was like, we're going to stop D-Day and we're going to do all this. And it just became something that was a little bit
too much. And then to place it in continuity somewhere is just absolutely ridiculous.
What you needed to do at this was like almost like what you did sometimes with Cap, of going on these secret side missions. We need that's what the Cap Wolf kind of was. Like, we never thought at any point, like, oh my God, this changes anything or whatever. You can kind of slip it in there. It happened there. This should have been, man, we end up where there's a Nazi castle and we have to infiltrate it. We can't do it because it's warded off by magics. Oh my God, Soldier Supreme. And all these characters just kind of meet up and they do what they do. But you went way too big.
You said Stephanie Phillips did that one?
Stephanie Phillips, I think,
she did a better job than this.
Yeah, I think so too. I said it surprised me how much we liked that, because it really looked like it was set up to be, oh, here we go. But it was fun. It actually is fun. You had a couple characters that you centered on. Boom. This got too
they could have even had
for nothing.
Cap Wolf could have even came into this.
Yeah,
somehow.
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
you tie that in. All of a sudden, they're like, oh man, the Allies aren't going to attack until a full moon. And then you have, oh no, it's the Wolfman. And he comes in. That would have been a cool thing if you had the shield, and then you go and suddenly it's Cap Wolf.
That would have been great.
And then you have Bucky's like, holy crap, Cap, what the hell happened to you? And he's like, what the hell happened to your arm? Shut your trap. Like, that would have been cool.
But you're right, though. Philip Kennedy Johnson's the one that said this was in continuity, so that screwed him.
Well, and you end up having, Romero, I guess, was in that Hulk deal. But boy, this was a big no for me. It was tough. But there you go. Me and you did some stinkers. In my mind, you were a little more positive than me. I just, it's a struggle. It's a struggle each week. It's not even just like the idea that people say, oh man, Marvel this and they're doing that, and catchphrases and things like that. It's just, it's the storytelling in each issue, and it's struggling. We're struggling, but we're gonna go off. I haven't read everything. Of course, the big book is Ultimate Spider-Man, and so I'm gonna go off and do that with Gray. I did page through it. I haven't read it yet, and I just want to let you know before we do that me and you are completely right when we talked about the idea that it was not Mysterio, that it was a dupe. So we'll be getting to that right about now. And we're going to continue on with my man Jason. What up, Jason?
Hey, Jim, happy 5th week to you and to all who celebrate.
Yeah, the thing is that Marvel has a weird deal. They don't really have an annuals week. They rarely have annuals anyway. They do weird things over there, and they just kind of, I guess, just go with the flow. They just release a million books every week anyway. But it seemed like not as many books.
No, the X line is very, very thin this week. Not a whole lot for me and Ruben to talk about, but
yeah. And if people don't realize, which I'm sure they do, Jason does the Weird Just of X with Ruben. So today I was looking through some books. You had actually asked if we were doing anything because I've had a lot of people join me for the DC show. But then I thought, you know what, it's Annuals Week. There's not a lot of books. And, you know, for you, there's no Metamorpho for me and you to fight over. And even then, people are like, man, Jason really whipped you down. Like, I'm getting a lot of comments about how you whipped me into shape or something with that book. But I figured
I'm just trying to help you enjoy a good comic book.
Yes.
Just as a pal, that's what I'm trying to do.
But I thought we were talking about Metamorpho in the DC podcast. You said good book. But here we are, because I actually asked you, hey, are you guys doing the Wolverine and Kitty Pryde? Because a lot of times these side things you guys don't.
Yeah, it's one of they call them continuity inserts, where you get like an older writer and have him write a story back in the day that doesn't tie into the current goings on, which is what this is.
And I actually love these type of things. I really like the Peter David things.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately is not in good shape.
Some of that Venom stuff was fun.
Yeah, I like the Maestro stuff was really neat too. Like
Maestro
some of
was
the stuff
good,
was really, really cool. And I actually, when it first started, I was like, what about? And then I really kind of started liking them. And Chris Claremont has done a couple of these already. So I figured, well, I like Wolverine. I actually like Kitty a lot better, but I was afraid maybe you guys were doing it because there weren't a lot of X books. But I think after dealing with some of the stuff the last couple of weeks, I think you guys just need a little bit of a break.
We decided
a little bit of a break because a lot of the books are tough. So I ended up not knowing anything about this except that it was that continuity insert, and we decided to do it. We were going to do it here, and then I started reading. I'm like, yeah, of all the things that I like of the Chris Claremont stuff, this might be the roughest start with this. It's a bit rough, but you actually went back and read the original Wolverine Kitty Pryde. So you're
I had read that miniseries in the past, but I went back and reread the whole thing again. It's a 6-issue miniseries from 84 into 85. That was a really good miniseries. Enjoyed it a whole lot. It's when Kitty got her Shadow Cat persona. She goes to Japan. Her dad had gotten mixed up with some Yakuza, as, you know, he's a small town banker, but he gets mixed up with a Yakuza. I don't know how that works, but
as they would in a comic, you know.
It was an early cut of it. It's a Wonderful Life. I think that's what originally happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you even get, like, in the recap, the deal where then Kitty was taken over by Ogun, and you had Wolverine, and everybody had to free her, and that's kind of where we go into this. I'll give you the credits here, and then we'll jump into it, but it's a weird start. The first half of this book really drags because it's just like Kitty's like, I don't have to listen to you. It's almost like I'll do what I want. She's yelling, and then everybody else is mad. And then finally we do get to something by the end, but it kind of ends then leaving you wanting a little more of this issue. But it's written by Chris Claremont, art by Damian Cosiero, Carlos Lopez on colors, letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. And so, yeah, we jump into it, and they are, you know, Logan's there and also Kitty's dad, and they're training Kitty. She doesn't want to be trained, but she's being trained, but she also isn't going to use her powers, but she does. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of her being
like it kind of undoes some character growth that happened in the original miniseries.
Okay, yeah.
She's been through a lot, but she's, you know, she seems to be in a good place by the end of the original miniseries. And then, as far as we knew, she and Logan went right back to the upstate New York. But now we're finding out, actually, they had this other adventure in between.
The Lost Weekend. Yeah, and so it feels like, though, like you said, that's weird, and especially since, and I'm glad you ended up reading it, because what happens here, it feels like after Ogun did that, and now they're training her, and really trying to train her to get the abilities and the things in the training that Ogun had done and put it under her control, and to actually be able to kind of control it herself. She doesn't seem to want to be an X-Men. She seems like she doesn't want to be a hero. She seems like she's pissed off at everything.
Powers, which that did not come up at all in the original one. So it feels like her character isn't where I would think it should be. her having short hair makes sense. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, you have that.
Ogun cut her long hair off in the original one. Here, she still has the short hair.
Yeah, I don't love that.
At least that matches.
I don't love the look, but that's accurate. Now, this is my fear, and we'll keep doing this as long as we enjoy it enough. But at the end, you'll just get to the end of kind of what you had at the end, just rereading the mini, that she's going to go through all this to then kind of say, okay, well, let's go. I'm in a good place now. You'd be like, really? Like, that already happened. And I think that's all it's going to do. But you do get if you're going to do things like this, you get wacky. Have some crazy dimension hopping. We'll get it by the end. But at this point, she's just fighting. And some characters, just kind of just show up. I'm saying, like, the idea, they make sense. Yukio, big character. But all of a sudden, she's there. I didn't even know she was there at the one point. And she's there. And they keep fighting. And this big play of, hey, I'm going to end up training you, but you're beating me up. And they're having kind of like a contest. Well, I'm going to beat you here. It's okay. But it's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's a weird book because by the time you get to the end, it almost feels like the first 18 pages were just filling space and only the last scene matters. Maybe the rest will come around to matter later on, but it doesn't feel like it in the first. It
doesn't feel it because, again, I guess it's a weird play because you're not even really getting people up to speed as much, but you kind of are, but you're not. And then at the end, I'm like, why didn't we just start get these little scene here, and then everything gets wacky, and you go to that deal. Is when we get to them, we'll tell what it is. But this is, teen angst and these things, and it's funny too because not having read the original recently, and I think I did read it, but it was like 2019, I think, is when I read it, and I can't remember things 19 hours ago. So when you have that. Her dad's there, and I'm like, okay, her dad's cool with Logan until he isn't. Like, I'm like, oh, he's kind of mad too.
Dad's been through some stuff. Kidnapped by the Yakuza, his daughter brainwashed to becoming a crazy murderous ninja.
Yeah, and you do get a kind of some thrown in, kind of history deal where he even talks about Charles. Me and Charles are at war. We served together. We were kind of cool.
That was a much later retcon.
Okay, yeah, that's a weird play.
And it was, even when it was originally retconned, we weren't quite sure if it was real because it was at a time when Charles was remembering it, but his mind was all wacky. So, as far as I know, this is the only time it's been since referenced in, if we call this in continuity, I guess, that Kitty's dad and Charles Xavier did serve in the war together in a medic capacity, and then Charles wiped his mind of all those memories for decades.
Maybe to help him so that he didn't have flash. It's weird. Not even saying it. It's like, yeah, he took the memories. He said he'd give them back later, but he forgot, and now he gave them back. I'm like,
he's the guy, that Charles Xavier.
I think there was a weird thing in that Invaders book by Chip Zdarsky. I couldn't remember which book it was, but it was revealed that Charles did almost the same thing to Namor at one point.
He does it all the time.
Yeah, he does. And this was going to be in the book, and that's why I think it was Invaders.
Richards.
It was going to be a huge thing, and then the book was canceled, so you never got it. Maybe down the line, Chip Zdarsky will go back and do this between continuity story when he's older, and
he's
we'll find out.
Captain America now, right? He could do it in that issue.
That'd
series.
Be kind of crazy. But
a new book for you to get engaged to.
It is, yeah, really. I love that book so much. I was talking about it recently.
It was a good book.
Oh, it was good until they announced that it was going to end, and then I think Chip Zdarsky just kind of we'll get out of this, and it kind of fizzled out. But it was really good.
Ended better than X-Force. Got to tell you that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I told Ruben that. I warned
X-Force
him.
This week was 8 issues compressed into 20 pages.
Yeah, that's not good. You end up too where it's funny because, again, like you said, when is it Carmine, when he says, hey, Xavier, he ended up doing this. I thought Wolverine was going to be like, get in line, dude. Like, everybody has that happen. Like you said, it happens all the time that he always forgets, or it's either that or he always gets something else goes on where all of a sudden he forgets this. Oh, it's wacky when Charles does that. But Kitty goes off, and through that, they keep even saying, hey, if you want to go and be, a girl and want to you miss your childhood, whatever, you can go with Emiko. You can do all these things.
So it's like instead of going right back home, we find out that Kitty wants to hang out with Emiko here and go to regular Japanese school, because we know that Kitty can speak Japanese. In the original miniseries, it's mentioned that Professor X had implanted the Japanese language into everyone's head, so they could all speak Japanese. Very handy.
It's very handy. That is the fun hand waving stuff. But the thing is, I don't mind that as much. It's kind of funny because, again, you don't want to have Kitty there, like, not understanding anything. But then even in this, it kind of gets brought up a couple times and things like that, that she's kind of against a lot of things. She's very angry about everything.
Is very young at this point. She's like, what do you think, like 15, 16-ish? Because this is shortly after she had joined the X-Men. This is right after Secret Wars. So it's right after that she and Colossus kind of broke up. So it's at that point where she's very much being written as younger than all the other X-Men.
And Chris Claremont mentions it. Says when she goes back, when we go back, she is, and it says the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters has barely a half a dozen students anywhere near her age. Rest of the X-Men team were much older. Now, I will tell you, the narration, it kind of gets wonky at one point, and I was like, is it still Wolverine? Because he's saying some weird stuff, but the idea was weird, too. Right?
Yeah, because we had that training scene at the beginning, just kind of getting us into this world, reminding us where we are, having Kitty spar with Yukio, and then we cut to, are they walking home from school?
Yeah, it looks like they're walking home.
They're walking home from school. We get an incredible number of narration boxes on this page. And it is from Logan, but he doesn't seem to be there yet. So he's just kind of talking about these crazy mook goons coming in. And I think these goons are trying to kidnap a completely different kid. No one connected to our little Wolverine family here.
No, it just looks
happened
like
to be.
It just says right?
How bad luck do you have to be as these three goons trying to do a kidnapping, and it turns out that Wolverine and Kitty Pryde are just happened to be right there.
They just happened to be there because they decided not to go home. Yeah, like, that is not a great day.
Knock over a liquor store in Hell's Kitchen, and there's Daredevil.
Why is Matt Murdock working at the liquor store? Because these guys do. And he's like handing out the wrong stuff.
No, any kid could get booze there. Just give him a credit card. He can't tell.
That'd be the craziest. He's like, I have to see ID. They're like, I bet you do there, pal. Though, as I heard from Zach in our year one podcast, I don't know if you heard, he was upset because he thought that blind people couldn't work out. I was like, what are you talking about? It was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. And he's like, well, they need help being spotted. I'm like, all right, whatever.
At least he knows that Matt Murdock is blind. Not everyone knows.
Not like Reggie. Reggie had problems. So you end up where these guys, and they are just goofballs. You know what I mean? I mean, it's Kill, Snare, and what is the
Getaway? Kill, Snare, and Getaway, and I've never heard of these guys, so I go to look them up. You know, I do my deep dives. Someone may have mentioned once or twice. So I'm checking the wiki for this. I'm checking the fandom stuff. Can't find any mention of these mooks. So I go to one of the AI chatbots. They're sometimes helpful, right? And I ask, was there a group of Marvel villains called Kill, Snare, and Getaway? And it says, oh yeah, absolutely. And it tells me that they're from Wolverine, Volume 2, Number 90, written by Larry Hama, which makes sense because their names are Kill, Snare, and Getaway. They sound like G.I. Joe characters. Larry Hama, it makes perfect sense. But then when I go to look up that issue, I don't find any mention that these characters really exist. So I don't know if the AI is lying to me. I don't know if it's just not in the wiki. But if you guys out there know if Kill, Snare, and Getaway are real Wolverine villains, let me know, because I got to go maybe find. I haven't had time. I got to find this on like Marvel Unlimited or something and actually read the issue.
And the funny thing about it is like you said, they kind of stumble into this. They're going to kidnap a kid.
I don't even learn this kid's name.
Yeah. And it's
generic Asian youth.
Yeah, exactly. And so you end up where these guys who seem to be connected a bit with Wolverine, he just happens to be there. And at one point, they legit are like grabbing the kid and tossing him like a sack of potatoes. It's like a football. It's like toss him around.
Generic Asian youths 20 feet away just to like get through the crowd to the one Asian youth that they're trying to kidnap.
Yep. And grab him. I like that snare has that snare deal. It kind of goes out like Machine Man. And so they grab him. They put him into this, at first I thought it was a
Gadget grappling arm.
Some crazy arm. And then they throw him in this like go gadget golf cart with a cage type box on it.
It looks like was again G.I. Joe because it looks like it was designed to be a toy. And then they put it in a comic book, is what.
Maybe that's their deal, and so it would make sense. And Kitty just phases and grabs the kid and goes, and that's where you have Emiko. She ends up jumping in and starts to attack, and that they really go, oh man, she's so, brave, and she's doing this.
Emiko,
and then
for people who might not know, Emiko is like sort of kind of the adopted daughter of Logan and Mariko.
Yep. And she even calls him like Papa Wolverine or Papa Logan. It's cute, and she is cute.
Her parents were killed by a dragon from Battleworld.
Yeah.
Bad luck there.
It's great too. It has that editor's note. I'm like, yep, I bet they were. When you see a dragon,
weird stuff in the Secret Wars.
You realize that these mooks are mooks because she's like ripping the hair off of one guy. Like she's really taking care of him. Does get slapped at one point, but Wolverine comes in, and then you get, again, over narration pretty much, and a lot of narration about how Logan wants to kill these guys, but he won't, and he can't pop the claws, and he shouldn't be doing it.
Now, Chris Claremont loved the thought balloons, the thought bubbles, and there's none of those in this one, so maybe he's just taking all the stuff he would have put in thought bubbles and just making them into narration boxes.
You say that because I've seen a lot of current writers, and there was a Twitter thing where there was like 3 or 4 writers, and they were debating the thought bubbles. And I think one of them, and I can't remember who, but one of them's like, I like them. And the rest are like, if you use thought bubbles, you're a hack. Like, it is like really, I think maybe Hickman said that he liked them. And it was somebody else, a bunch of people saying, no, you can't use them, whatever. Just out of the blue, I ended up getting an early copy of the Supergirl book that's coming up. Out the wazoo. There are thought bubbles out there, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Trying to do like a pastiche or like it's out of the 80s?
It does not seem it, but it's kind of weird. It's weird, but there's a ton, and also narration and word bubbles out the wazoo as well. You can barely see the art at points. It's crazy. When it comes out, you'll see what I'm talking about. But legit thought bubbles, and I was like, I actually like thought bubbles sometimes. I think it's kind of cool, but they don't use them anymore. But again, when you say we won't use thought, then you use narration. I think that's clunkier. Again, because sometimes you lose track and like, is that still Logan? Because at one point he's talking and I thought that it changed and whatnot.
It seemed at first like it was an omniscient narrator, but then it's clearly Wolverine and
And then there's later the point when it's like something about a woman and it seemed weird. And I thought he was like, it changed again. Like maybe it was Kitty, but it's just Wolverine. But he doesn't want to pop the claws. He doesn't want to kill anybody. And he ends up, with that and all Kitty and things like that going on. But in the meantime, you said it already. We're almost done. And not much has happened. It just is almost like, hey, we got to establish
that Emiko is trying to get into the fighting stuff. So then in the next scene, we go back to Mariko's fancy Tokyo apartment because she's the boss of a crime clan at this point. And they say, if you're trying to get into this fight thing, we're going to get you some body armor. So, okay, Emiko gets some body armor. And the belt says M and L, which must be Mariko and Logan. I don't know why her parents' initials are on her belt buckle, but...
yeah,
little
like Elvis thing going on. I don't know, but I'm impressed by that television that they have. It's humongous. But in that, they even, like, it's weird. They say, listen, if you're going to do this, almost felt like it should have just been her they were to try to kidnap. It was weird because then they say, well, you might be in danger, but it's more of the idea that she might get herself in danger. But why not just have her get...
It feels weird that Logan is encouraging her to kind of get out there and roughhouse with, supervillains.
Yeah,
I would expect that he would say, no, you're just a kid. You should have a regular childhood, not like me. I'll protect you. I would think that's what Logan would do, but he leans into,
Oh,
No,
he
we're going to
leans
give you,
into it.
give you
which
your
is-
superhero outfit.
And it's weird because in an issue that Kitty seems to be saying, I need a childhood. I want to hang out with Emiko. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, like, here's your super suit.
Dragging Emiko
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, look at her. Dragon. Then you shouldn't say that. She's going to get a little bit
Sorry.
upset.
Emiko,
That was
didn't-
not a pun. She's going to cry. But yeah, so the idea should have been, hey, listen, they keep trying to kidnap you because of who she is. We need to get you some protection and armor that you put on underneath it. You could even do a funny joke because when you look at it, it does look like the muscle suits that some of the big, guys would wear, like a Michael Keaton back in the day.
Turn got me because it said you'd better start wearing, and then in quotes, puts quotes around the word armor. And I thought it was going to be about Armor, the X-Man who we now see in, Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah, Ultimate deal. Yeah, it was weird, like the way that
It
they
fooled
played
me.
that
I
out.
really think they're setting that up, but I guess it's just, I don't know why there's quotes around the word armor. Doesn't make any sense.
And why would they? It's very odd. And then you have the page turn. I do like that. Kitty's dad just looks so out of place. He's just sitting there. Everybody's having a good time. He looks so upset. But then Kitty gets a new customer.
And also, he looks so out of place in the Japanese clothes.
That's what I'm
He's
saying.
a schlubby Connecticut banker guy, and he's wearing a kimono.
That mustache and the sandals. I'm like, you do not look good like that. It's purple. I'm like, everything's wrong with that guy. But you end up where I thought Kitty was going to get this costume. I don't know. I thought from what we got already, she was going to say, I'm not putting this shit on.
Yeah, Kitty gets a package with an X-Men costume in it. Very, very 80s, very spandexy, blue and gold. And you'd think that, if she hates the superhero life, that she'd be upset. But no, she looks thrilled to open it.
She looks thrilled. I didn't get it. I thought that she'd be like, and maybe you'd have, Emiko say, come on, I got my thing. And she'd like, okay, well. And also, I think that on the side, I think Logan's going over and like, you better make sure she doesn't get into trouble. Like, you better watch her because of them going back and forth in school. I don't even know if she's enrolled in school or she was just hanging. She just wanted to hang, it seemed. But then that's when you get the father talking about, hey, Charles and me spent years together. I like the whole thing where he's, kind of going with his whole soul here. Listen, he took memories from me. He thought that'd be a good thing. He forgot to give them back. I got him. Oh, my God, my brain's all scared. And all Wolverine could think, yep, I know what it's like there, bub. And thinks back of weapon heads. I'm like, you are really, really a jerk, Logan. It's all about you. He even says it at one point, too, the whole play that it always leads back to him. But in the meantime, you look then, Kitty's doing crazy cartwheels and doing roundhouse kicks like Jean-Claude Van Damme on Emiko. And we're still at a point where I'm wondering, when are we going to get to a story here? But we do them because she hears the
I'm
schnick,
wondering
right?
what's being set up because we have these disparate scenes, and it seems to be about like Kitty maybe wanted to be a kid, maybe wanted to be a superhero. And then we go to it. We cut right to it's called later. So we see sometime later, Kitty's sleeping in bed in her new superhero costume.
Yeah, she loves it so much, right?
She hears Logan's claws pop, snicked. It does that cool thing I love where the shape of the panel are the letters. I don't know why that always works for me.
Oh, I love it.
So,
I think it's cool. And it's her yelling Logan because she hears that, and that means trouble, obviously. But you keep going.
And so she, phases her way up into Logan's bedroom. And it's kind of, she says, if I'm interrupting, ...
Yeah,
I'll laugh
that was
later.
weird.
She thinks she's going to walk in on an intimate moment between
Sexy
Logan and
time.
Mariko with the claws out. I don't
It was
know.
weird.
I don't
It
know,
was-
man. That was a
yeah,
strange
really.
panel.
They like it rough. It was weird when she's like, if I like the idea, wouldn't it be better if she was like, I hope I don't walk into something? Geez, she's like, if I do, I'll get over it later. I didn't know what was happening there.
Well,
And then she
gets up to the bedroom, and the bedroom, there's snow everywhere. The whole place is covered in snow. And I'm thinking back, in the original miniseries, there was some odd weather because it was at the same time period when Thor had opened up the casket of ancient winters, I think. So they did a little bit of a little nod crossover there. Oh, it's snowing here in Japan when it shouldn't be. So I thought, well, maybe they're referring to that again.
Yeah, but
then Kitty trips and falls. We turn the page. We get an ad in a very inconvenient place.
Yeah, it's the worst place ever.
And now we've been isekai'd.
Yeah, we have. Yep. And instead of being a slime or a vending machine in the dungeon, she's now a Shogun warrior. And I'm
She
like,
is.
what happened? What
So
happened?
she wakes up in this still in the snow. I don't know, it's like a Narnia thing almost more than anything else, going through the wardrobe in the snow, and Mr. Tumnus standing there by the light pole.
Yeah.
But instead of Mr. Tumnus, it's Logan and Mariko. They're all dressed in ancientish Japanese outfits. And we say that, Logan says that, Mariko is dressed up as a very high-class lord. He's dressed up as her consort, and Kitty as their champion. Which suggests, says Logan, because he's jumping to conclusions, that this is all bound to Clan Yashida, which is Mariko's crime family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out of nowhere, he just says it. I do like, there's Kitty. She's in the apartment, and she says, oh, man, there's snow. Maybe it's from a broken window or ceiling itself. Like, look then. But then she just face plants. I'm like, what happened? It's not even look like a portal or anything like that. Or she got...
No, very small panels. We get a close-up of Liefeldian foot. It says the word trip, and then she's in the isekai world. Are they a different world? Is it a time travel?
I don't know.
We don't know,
Weird.
because
It's
all
weird.
we see in this last double-page spread is Kitty calls it a snow babe, but I can't even tell from it's just like it looks like Japanese armor made out of snow and ice. I can't even tell. It doesn't even look particularly female, but it looks like a threatening Japanese samurai type figure holding a katana.
But to me, it looks like, what is this, The Shining? It looks frozen. Like, it looks completely frozen in my mind, right?
It looks like Jack Nicholson at the end
It's
of the
like Jack Nicholson. And I'm like, okay. And then the only reason I say, because then you turn and look at the cover for next page and they're actually fighting this person. I'm like, it didn't look like this was something like, it looked like something anciently frozen. Like, now they're in this thing, they'll end up like, oh my God, this is the ancient one. But I guess it's going to attack them. But why? And it ends up
I'm
where,
also
like
wondering,
you said,
what snicked did Kitty hear? Because when we get to this scene, Logan's claws aren't out until at the end we get a last little inset panel, him snickting out the claw.
like he snicked and then put him back. When
I don't know
because he seems very confused about what's going on, then jumps to conclusions, right?
So it looks like the rest of this series, I guess, is all going to be kind of in this isekai world, maybe?
I guess.
What did the prior scenes matter?
That's the problem.
We got a whole big thing about Kitty getting a new costume, and now she's isekai'd and she's not wearing that costume anymore. She's wearing a different new costume.
And set it up.
Were the first 18 pages just to fill space for the cliffhanger?
I guess. And
that's what it feels like.
Like, you could have had where before they, they're going back. Like you said, at the end of the original Wolverine Kitty Pryde, they're going back to the mansion, all that. Maybe instead of like, hey, I'm going to train, I'm pissed off, new cut, have them go to we got to go to this temple and give our last with something that would be able to lead to this. Like some crazy thing. They end up finding the jade monkey. I don't know, but something that would get to this. Not all of a sudden it just was snowing. And it seems like they were drawn in by, this, I don't know, the snow babe.
And obviously we don't know what the next issues hold. We don't know if those prior scenes are going to turn out to be relevant. But they don't feel relevant so far.
No, not at all. And even then, I would rather it be almost like they were almost drawn here or brought here to help out with something with the snow babe. I keep saying snow babe. But it does look, at least on the cover too, they're like fighting this thing. But why, how, and what? I just don't get it. But the idea that, oh man, all this crazy shit must be shit up. Like, why? Why would you say that? And what does it mean? I guess it's true because he said it and that's what Chris Claremont wants to go with. But it's weird. It's weird. And the front part, like you said, everything but like 2 pages really doesn't seem to matter. So it really threw me by the end. And now I want to see what's going on here. So I do want to continue, but I would have rather have had more of that in the issue if that's the big play. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, make this last scene the very first scene and then give us some clue what's going on.
Yeah, have a thing like, see, Wolverine, they're about to go home and then something happens. Then it was weird. But the art's rough. The story's a little shaky, but I don't know.
Art is very much on the simple end of things. which, if you want to be generous, you could say, oh, because it's referring back to the way things looked in the 80s, but it doesn't really lean into the 80s-ness of it enough for me to cut it that slack. I really don't like the way they draw Kitty's face. She's very
Kitty's face
going through an awkward period.
Yeah, she has.
She
Sometimes
looks
like
pretty rough.
biggest mouth I've ever seen. When she yells, it's like trap jaw opens up. You're like, holy moly!
And not like I need a young Kitty Pryde to be drawn all sexy or anything, but she looks awkward and homely, and those words should not go to Kitty Pryde.
No, at one point, I will legit. I was thinking, I'm like, when did Peter Parker show up? Because there was a couple panels. I swear to God, she looks like Peter. I'm like,
she does.
Yeah, she looks a lot like him. When she ends up where she gets that costume,
I'll post that snikt. When she hears the snikt, she looks like Peter Parker. I'll put that on the Slack.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
yeah, you got to put that on there because she. Oh my gosh, I look at it now. I thought it was more when she's like, "Daddy," when she's given the uniform. Like she looks like Peter there too. She's got like this crazy look. And I don't know who that's more of an insult to, Peter or Kitty. And I love Kitty, so I hope that this works out. But it doesn't really feel like you're really dealing with anything that's real anyway. I mean, obviously it's a weird isekai kind of look here, kind of thing, but doesn't seem like it was set up. Like if he wanted to do this, just do that. Like you said, just start off right away. But what would you give it?
Man, the good thing, I want to say something good about this, and the good thing about this issue is it got me to go back and reread the original miniseries, which is excellent. So if you got the Marvel Unlimited, reread that, or like the trade paperback is like $10. A classic. If you like 80s Claremont storytelling, this is the good stuff. So get that. Then after that, I'm kind of out of good things to say about this issue because we went through, there's just disjointed scenes, characters that don't seem like they're really acting like themselves, and a final moment that makes you go, what was the rest of the book about? I'm going to be kind of real positive here and hopeful and give this a 6.0 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that those early scenes come back to mean something later. Otherwise, I'm being too generous.
I'm telling you right now, when I was thinking, I'm like, if I'm going to be generous, it's a 6. 6 is as high as it could go, but I'm going to give it a 5.5, just a little bit less. But at one point, I did have people suggesting that we do some back in the day retro things or whatever, and maybe if we go to do that, me and you'll cover, one or whatever issues of that original.
That'd be fun.
If that was the cool thing. If this ends up, we're like, this is not going well, maybe we'll revert to that and read that. At least the first issue would be kind of cool. But we still have more issues to go because now we're going to go off. Me and Gray are going to be talking some Ultimate Spider-Man, maybe a couple other books. I'm not sure, but thanks for joining me, Jason. Everybody make sure that you check out the Weird Dose of X with Jason and Reuben. Again, I'm sure that they have. And with that, we'll go off for me and Gray. All right, we're going to finish up the show with Gray. What up, Gray?
What up, Jim? How you doing? Are you Genki?
I am not Genki. I feel so good. I doing the keto diet, and I have the keto flu is what I have. And then after this, I'm going to keto my ass to bed, I think. That's what the new thing is.
Mrs. Wakizashi was warning you, wait a minute, didn't the keto diet give the originator a heart attack in the end? Or was that something else?
No, it's that.
She's worried about you, Jim. She's worried. She'll be sending you vegetables from Japan.
So she's giving me the good vibes. But the thing is, I don't love vegetables. So when I do the keto, I actually can stick with something, and I just have to not get over the top. My wife's aunt ended up on the keto diet. Again, it was the Atkins diet at that point, and overdid it so much that they had to put her in the hospital, and she was losing her hair. It was pretty bad.
Goodness.
Because you do end up like it's crazy though. At points you're like, I had 6 pounds of bacon, 3 steaks, and 5 hamburgers without the bun, and I lost 20 pounds. And you're like, oh my goodness. And some people don't want to transition off of you have to add some vegetables.
What about I lost so much weight having 10 eggs a day? You're like, what are you, Mr. Rockefeller? How rich are you? I mean, 10 eggs a day.
Usually when I do something like this, and I have been on the keto diet before, eggs are a huge part of my deal. I ended up where I went to Aldi yesterday shopping, and I'm looking at eggs. I'm like, yep, I don't think I'm going to get those eggs. I'm no Rockefeller. It's still like $4 and some. I love the idea that people are like, oh my God, it's so great. Eggs are so cheap now, $4.20 a dozen. I'm like, what? At one point, I believe at Aldi, they were like 89 cents a dozen. I was getting like 5 dozen
That's
eggs.
crazy prices, though. Come
Because
on.
at points when I was working out, I would like eat a 6-egg omelet. It was ridiculous. Thing was humongous.
Welcome to the Weird Science Cooking Show.
Here we are, the keto deal. Today, I'm going to be making a grilled chicken wrap. Right. What am I? I was just going to go into the credits. I even said what book we're doing. We're doing the keto book. It is the Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man number 16, written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by VC's Corey Petit. Now, me and you are doing this, and in fact, I ended up suggesting to Matt, Dr. Matt, hey, we should do Ultimate Spider-Man again. It's a pretty big issue. And he said no, and instead wanted to do Godzilla and Spider-Man. And you heard how that worked out. That was not good. You didn't like it either.
Goodness. Jeez, Nick, I call you Nick now.
Yeah.
I got
Nick
so flustered, Jim.
Holy
Nick
moly.
Lowe is in my head because he put himself on almost every page of that book.
Yeah. Like you said, he's the biggest ego, this guy. Like
Biggest
everybody
ego in
hates him,
comics.
and he thinks that he's hilarious, and he's so lovable and likable.
I can't wait to hear you take it down, you review.
Yeah, I'm telling you, once you said that, I'm like, I thought that I was just being miserable. Now, people would have heard it by now. But I actually thought that people were going to come out of the woodwork to tell me, come on, it's just supposed to be fun. And I don't have no fun. But I kept mentioning that. I'm like, I know this is supposed to be kind of fun, whatever. But boy, it was all over the place.
Nick
but
Lowe take the fun out of comics.
Yeah, he did. Oh, my
That's
goodness.
my tagline.
So here we are. We have a Nick Lowe-less book, and lo and behold, people love it. So I don't know. Nick Lowe should look in the mirror at some point. But here we go with issue 16. I'm going to read the recap because we haven't reviewed it in a couple months, but it also brings up something that it just blows my mind. But 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. Now, I had told people or said on the podcast at one point when the Ultimate Spider-Man came out, a lot of people weren't reading the Ultimate stuff. When you talk about, there was not really a lot of hype for Ultimate Invasion and the Ultimate stuff that was setting up the world.
No,
all
there wasn't.
Was once Ultimate Spider-Man came out and word on the street got out that it's Peter with MJ with kids, then people swarmed in all of a sudden.
Took off big time.
Yeah, and it did take off.
Jim.
And I think, Gray, you remember at a point, though, didn't seem like that many people wanted to get involved in this Ultimate stuff. They were like, we already had this before. I like the old stuff. This isn't needed, all that. But once the Spider-Man deal hit and they just swarmed in. And with that, for the longest time, I was convinced that nobody knew. You would have people legit say, why aren't we seeing this character? Why isn't this happening? But it all was because of the Maker. And they didn't know that. And it was a lot with Ultimate X-Men. Oh, man, these aren't the X-Men. Where's the X-Men? And like, this isn't the same world. It was changed. We have to see. But people would get all upset. Now we're getting to a point where we're getting close to the Maker coming back. And I'm wondering if people are now into that bit.
I don't know, Jim. I tell you what, I've forgotten who the
Yeah.
Maker is. He's not been in anything for so long. It's like,
he's stuck in that bubble. He's stuck in that dome. So
what's he doing?
And this issue starts to put the conspiracy in this different timeline, things like that. That's the other thing. People weren't aware, for the most part, of exactly what the Maker did. Yeah, they knew that he stopped the spider, but he set up a council. I don't know that there's anybody out there except the super fans that would be able to say, oh, you mean the council, and name who's part of this, or even the territories, all of them, because I think people are just here for the family, especially this book. And so the next bit of this recap is what really got me and still gets me to this point, but I have to move on. 15 months ago, Tony Stark sent Peter that same radioactive spider along with a Picotech suit. Does it feel like Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for 15 months? Because he hasn't done a lot. That was my biggest complaint about the book, because it says, since then, Peter has used the incredible powers granted by the spider's bite to fight crime.
Was he? When?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He did that big, I guess it was Mr. Negative with the whole bank heist was the best thing we saw, I thought.
We saw a bank heist. We saw a fight with Kingpin, didn't we? A very brief fight. And then Craven the Savage Land.
Yeah, that's really all
under your house, by the way.
And so I never really got the idea, okay, this Spider-Man's different. He's older, But why is he different because of that? What have we seen that makes him different than the regular deal? Because he should be different. It's older. He has a family, all that. And instead, you just lost track. And I think that's a misplay of having that monthly schedule. You can still have like a month later or whatever, but it just feels like doing that whole play of May has to be May, April, and then moving on. You're missing
That's
a lot of
right. The monthly
cliffhangers.
issues,
You're missing
isn't
a lot
it?
of things. And
In
and
real
then,
time almost.
yeah. And so when you end up seeing, legit a couple months, Craven had Peter and Harry, but we only got like an issue and a half of that. So it never felt like you
it
get
just doesn't feel like it, does it? It's weird. I'll tell you what, Jim, there's one good thing about this version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. When you do see him as Spider-Man, which I know is rare, it's not Joe Kelly writing him with that crazy
that's
humor.
great.
Hey, look at me.
Yeah.
With
Hey
the
there,
kids.
kids. Like, hey there, saying all these
that
phrases.
was really getting to me in that Godzilla issue. That
Oh
late
my
as well.
God, that was bad. There was a point in that the dialogue, I just started getting a headache. Since then, Peter has used the incredible powers granted to Spider-Bite to fight crime alongside Green Goblin, aka Harry Osborn, co-CEO of Zal's Corp. Craven the Hunter kidnapped Peter and Harry, dragging Mole Man and Mysterio into his dangerous game, despite Mole Man's concerns about Craven keeping his hunt secret from their superior Kingpin. After a grueling battle, Harry was murdered by Craven, but Mysterio helped Spider-Man escape. And the grueling battle, again, it was very quick. And Jonathan Hickman's a great writer, so he's able to give you the play. But at one point, they're just riding velociraptors. I had the biggest problem, like, when were they training these things? And you would be able to say, oh, that was the month between the deal. I'm like,
I think they fought more dinosaurs than they did fought the crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Anyway.
But we're going to jump into this. I do like the cover where you have a bunch of Mysterios and the Mysterio crosswalk that goes up on what you see the light on the on the traffic light. It's Mysterio. It's kind of funny.
Nice.
But again, the big thing is Harry was dead. When that happened, I said, this Mysterio, something's wrong. I thought it was Doc Ock. I thought that Doc Ock had disguised himself as Mysterio and had shown up and was kind of like duping everyone. We'll find out in this issue that, lo and behold, it was a combo, but at the end, it was Gwen. And we're going to lead into that by an issue that's going to show you the connection between Gwen and Harry. I don't know. To me, I don't get the feels from this. I don't really get the feels not even knowing that Harry was going to come back, but I figured he would. The idea, though, it's not like I found this heartbreaking, and I don't know if it's that Jonathan Hickman in my mind, when I read a lot of his stuff, I don't get very emotional with it. I think it's good, and he has really cool concepts and things, but I'm telling you, I think that some of the problem is the idea of having this month thing, that how much have we seen Gwen? And a lot of the stuff we've seen from Gwen, I hate to say it, she's been kind of a bitch. And I don't really have a connection of, oh my God, now you could go with the, feelings you'd have for Gwen herself from before, but, she's dead. But you end up
fired by Jim Werner.
I'm telling you, like, you just it almost feels very cold throughout this whole series. So
you've got to build up a character, haven't you, all the way through, like regularly through a series. You've got to keep showing them, and you've got to build the what do you call it? Oh my God.
The connections.
Exactly. To build a connection with them. But as you say, we've not seen them enough, have we, Jim?
No. So what I think that if people disagree, I think that Hickman realizes that now we're going to get character work, but I'm not going to get feels in an issue where we just get the character work, because we see her as a kid. We see her and Harry dating. We see her getting married and meeting Norman and Harry's mom. But if we saw that before, maybe I'd have more of a connection. But this is just feels like not a checklist, but it feels like, okay, I'm going to tell you these things because we have to establish that Gwen is Mysterio and Gwen is a family of her dad was Mysterio. And there's a crazy kind of deal where Gwen has been involved in conspiracy theories. It's a funny play, but it's because she realizes she's one of the few that know that this is an alternate timeline and that there's two separate timelines. And one was where things were supposed to go. Now, the cool play of that is, Gwen, you might be digging in the wrong place, because that other timeline where you're the best of everything, you're dead. You died. So the idea,
really?
yes, you didn't know that. So like the idea where she's sitting there, right? And there was a weird play because we had that sins of the past where when Norman's dancing with Gwen, it got really like kind of got like
Uh-oh.
icky. It got icky because of kind of the
Bit
deal.
sus.
Yeah, but she's there, and again, you see that her dad ends up talking about, hey, your mom died, and people live on, and the memories, and it leads to that he dies. Now we're thinking, okay, he died, but he dies, and the big play is his body is never discovered, and that seems to be needed to pass the legacy of Mysterio on to the next person, which would be Gwen. If you can't find the body, this might be or seems as if it was, Maker stuff. They ended up trying to hide the body, killing the body, whoever it would be, Kingpin involved, whatever. But she ends up realizing, this stuff is not real and it's really bad. And you get a cool, nice moment with her and Harry where I hate rich people. Well, it's
is that the nice part, Jimmy, talking about? She goes, do you want to know a secret, Harry? I hate rich people, so I thought I wasn't going to like you, but I actually do.
And he says, well, good thing I'm not rich. I'm also wealthy.
Yeah, not only rich,
I'm
wealthy.
She's like, also humble and ridiculous. And then at one point he says, I have to admit, I don't really like you. And I'm like, where's this going? And he says, I love you. And she's like, oh, I love you too.
Bada-boom.
And they're going to get married. We know that. But in the meantime, she gets a call that they found his body. They found my dad's body. And you then go back, and it goes back and forth, and it's this talk, and then you do see his eyes glow. So, something's crazy. We're not really sure at this point, but you realize then, next page, that she is Mysterio, and this, like I said, Council of Mysterios, they're there. It's like a coven of witches kind of deal.
So, now, Jim, I know, where did this come from? That's what I was thinking when I was reading it. It's like, wow, the circular table, it's like the round table. Where's King Arthur? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But they're there in this mysterious deal. And then you even have Gwen say, hey, Quentin, this. And you go, okay, is that Quentin Quire, Kid Omega? But is it Old Man Omega? So you end up where even that says she's now welcome in because they found the body. Sister. It seems like they need the body. They have to verify, yes, he is dead, so that she can then rise up and hear deal. And eventually they say she will become Mysterio. In the meantime, that's when Harry and Peter are kidnapped. She's not quite Mysterio yet. She's waiting for whatever, the ceremonial day. But you go through the wedding. It looks cool. I think the art's great in this. Dr. Matt doesn't like Marco Cicchetto's art. I think it looks really good.
I hear that. But I really like it.
Yeah, and you even have this play where Norman, Gwen says, listen, I have to meet your parents. I hope these stories that you told were exaggerated because they can't be that bad. And Harry's like, oh, they're worse. And Norman at the wedding says, you could have done better to Gwen. And then Gwen says, that's funny. I told her your wife the same thing. And he likes that. But it's like, I don't know. They're getting
you got some steel in your kid.
Yeah. He likes it. And then he says, don't ever let him distract you from what you were put on this earth to do. And what she's been put on the earth to do is to be Mysterio. He doesn't know this, I guess. But, who knows?
That's just weird line, isn't it? That's what I was thinking. Because in the background, you can see like a Mysterio helmet flashing, which just like, does he know? Does he know she's part of it? Yeah, it's weird.
And and in this, it's, not where's Waldo, it's where's Mysterio, because Mysterio's all over the damn place. Here, you have that entity.
Is he on the Christmas tree?
yeah, really. So then she says, I can make that promise, I won't. But then you end up where, for Christmas, or Harry gives her this conspiracy theorist book. This guy thinks, or was the one who had one of the theories of tachyon
The world
particles.
That is and the world that was. Dr. Jericho Drum.
It's the double timeline deal. And Harry's like, oh, man, it took so much. Like, this book was probably burned. You don't want this book around. And it took him a while to find this copy. He says, we could have put a kid through college, all these things going on. But she says it's not conspiracy. This is real. This stuff about the two timelines is real. Talks about the two Earths. She says then, I'm not a flat earther or a chemtrail person. Like, she's throwing shade at them.
Bring on the shape-shifting lizards, Jim. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly. You said that you got into some of that stuff back in the day.
Goodness.
It was cool.
Many years ago.
Now it's like, I don't know. When you say that, I think there might be more people who believe in that stuff, though. But yeah, so you have this whole play, and the Mysterios, the council, they're talking about the Maker. They're talking about this conspiracy, the idea of two timelines. They know the Maker has fabricated something out of this. So it does look like one of the big things that might save, I don't know, quote unquote, save, it would be the Mysterio Council here with Gwen. And you have that play where she's like, well, I'm not exactly Mysterio yet. Like I said, she has to wait. But in the
What's
meantime,
their plan, by the way? Is their plan to kind of reveal, the truth of the world, or show off the lie? The lie. It's all a lie, Jim.
But again, it's tough to tell people, hey, by the way, this is you'll come out as crazy. So they have to take the fight to him. But she says, I realized that it was real when all of a sudden Kingpin rose up. We ended up with staying Stark and all that. But now I realize that in the archives and the things, we found out the true history of the world. And you even had at that point where they did give it to Ben and Jay Jonah. What are they going to do? Because that want the press to get involved, but also the press is being controlled by these
Jonah's not going to print that, though, is he?
No. And one of them is going to die. And you would think it'd be Ben, but I think it'd be Jay Jonah. But they have all this going on. But yeah, we have to wait and hey, should we release the information and wipe the fog from the world? Says this Quentin. She's like, no, we can't do that. We can't act too fast. We'd be flying close to the sun. And that's exactly what got my father killed. I think we need a better delivery system. And they say, who is that going to be? And it does look like it's Ben and Jay Jonah that are kind of part of that. And that's when they end up meeting Peter and MJ. Again, this seems like it might be now we're seeing it was more set up than just natural. And so when they're doing this, and you do again see Mysterio all around, and this is a scene we saw before, but now you're seeing it with Mysterio involved in knowing what Gwen is and isn't. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, they end up where Harry, a few months later, he's Green Goblin talking, and that's the thing. He doesn't know Gwen anything Mysterio. He ends up where at this point, he's pretty oblivious to it. He finds out later when what happens.
Finds out, when we do, basically. Well, yeah.
So then we go, and again, this issue I think a lot of people like because it does tie up a lot of things that we had. When Harry went down and was talking to Peter in the Savage Lands being hunted by Kraven, he said, listen, and remember what it was that Doc Ock, Peter would not give Doc Ock his phone number and wouldn't let him know anything. So he didn't get this play. But when Harry goes missing, he had set up a program where Doc Ock would go into, boom, we're going to protect Gwen, we're going to do this. She's now, and I thought that was always then at this point, oh, that's what the Mysterio stuff must have been. But it's not. She's mad because they're following her around. You ended up having Harry say to Peter, when they were in the Savage Lands, listen, she's going to be protected, almost like a Secret Service, but she won't know. She won't have any, but she does. She knows she's being followed. She also has this Mysterio deal and says to Doc Ock, you're fired. He's just doing what Harry said. He's doing exactly what Harry said.
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird scene for me, Jim, because I thought, do you reckon Otto, maybe he knows? Could he have guessed about Gwen if he's been following her?
Well, he says, I saw some things and she fires him. I think he's lucky he's not dead.
Yeah.
And what does he go and do now?
What did you see?
Because now he gets fired. Now he's just going to be a villain. He was always creepy. But I kind of it's kind of a shame that she just...
Is that the trigger that drives him over the edge and, turns him into a villain?
I think it might be.
Yeah, it could be.
And so, I'm sure everybody's probably saying, yeah, that might be it. But Gwen, the problem is, it's not that she was being protected, it's that they were following and found out some things and were like, you were doing some things. He says, you were being followed and protected, but it says, forgive me, I would normally never intrude on your privacy, but some of the things you've been doing and places you've been going to don't really add up. I have a few questions. She does not want to reveal that.
What have you been doing buying all those fish bowls?
Yeah, really. It'd be funny. He's like, I see you're doing the Pilates a lot. Do you think that that's really helping you? But yeah, this is the thing, Otto. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut and wait to see if Harry is alive and he comes back, and then discuss it with him. Don't question Gwen about crazy stuff that she's doing. I know he thinks he's protecting her because Harry said, but he went too far. And yeah, you have the Mysterio deal there in the background saying he's too curious, too close, cut him loose. And she's like, you're fired. I wanted to see him what the hell? Really?
It would have been cool if you got you're fired, pulled out a gun and go bang.
Yeah, really. It goes nuts. Or she does. I don't know how she leaves him alive because of what he's seen, it seems.
He's seen too much, hasn't
he? Maybe he hasn't seen that much, but he seems to have seen enough to ask questions, and he's done. So then you go back to when Harry got killed, and we do see, and there was a mention again, Harry's been kidnapped. They kind of know, they know where he is, but Gwen isn't Mysterio yet. It's like, oh, I have 2 days. What are we going to do? How are we going to save him? And it seems like the minute that she becomes the full Mysterio, she goes right into the Savage Lands and dupes the killing of Harry. And now if you go back, I thought that you'd see some weird things, because now it does look like when a thing that I got mad about, when the gun is pulled, even though I still think that the Spidey sense would have went even with Peter, because it did graze him. But now it's kind of shooting at an illusion. It's not even really Harry. So, you can say that it wasn't really threatening a living being. But in the meantime, Mysterio, Gwen has Harry and says, be quiet, watch. And you see that kind of dupe Harry, an illusion, being killed. Then you end up seeing Peter freak out, beats the crap out of Kraven, and ends up where that was where Mysterio showed up and said, Peter, you got to get out of here. They might have your family, all that. But we didn't see the big play. You go from there, because we didn't see how Kraven ended. Because again, Kraven, I said, what do you do then? Kraven knows all this. He is just going to hunt down the family and never stop. You're really setting this up. But you go with what Gwen does then.
I'm just looking at, Kraven's face, because Peter obviously beat him to a pulp, didn't he, Jim? We get a close-up, he's in bits, his lip, his eye, you can't see. And then we've got Gwen as Mysterio saying, you came between me and mine. So long, comrade. Picks up the gun and shoots Kraven through the head.
Just shoots him through the head. Now, the funny thing is, what happened if we find out later that was a dupe to show Harry? That was a dupe to show this. But it is funny because, remember, Mysterio came out and convinced Peter to go and, you better go save your family. They could be in danger. And then Kraven says, man, you really done messed up, Mysterio. You got between me and my hunt. And that's when she says that and just shoots him right in the head. So I guess
him. And then she reveals who she is, isn't she, to Harry at this point. Finally, the helmet goes off and he's like, what the hell is going on?
I like where Harry just freaks out because he goes, Mysterio? And she gives the helmet, yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Oh, my God, he freaks out. And then he joins Gwen because the beginning was that looking at Harry's.
They're in the graveyard, aren't they, Jim? Yeah, there's his gravestone. In loving memory, Harry Osborn.
Yeah, so the thing is, this ends up being the perfect way of doing things, actually, because if Kingpin knows, because obviously all these people, that he knows that Harry is Green Goblin, there's trouble. Well, now they think Harry's dead. So Harry does say it in a weird way. It's a weird roundabout deal, but basically, now that Harry's dead, Harry's saying this, now Green Goblin isn't Harry, and we could just go on and do our stuff. But I guess he's got to, hide. He can't just be walking around, even though he's walking around right here. But yeah, you end up where they're going to take it to the street. They say, what do we do next? Well, we fight them now and we win. And that's big. And we're heading towards this, event. So that's a big part
next
of it.
Issue, Harry's War.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happens with, doing this? Can he go and tell Spidey? Can he tell Peter? But I don't know that he can. You don't want to let anybody know that you're actually alive because you're using this as a way to, do better and do bigger and not be, almost like hiding in plain sight, that they're not going to know who it is and they're going to freak out. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, there's in loving memory of Harry Osborn. They think he's dead. So eventually I think, Peter will find out and flip out that he didn't tell him, maybe. I don't know. It's a big issue. It does end up like it throws in a lot of like recap and we'll see a scene again, but through a different angle. So it's not exactly like the most like, oh my God, it was, each step of the way, I don't know what's going to happen. But once you get the Mysterio part and you see Gwen Mysterio and then realize she saved Harry, it ends up being one of the better issues. But what would you give it?
Wow, this is a tough one because I've got to say I did really enjoy it, and you said you kind of called it, but I didn't expect it to be Gwen. I was thinking,
yeah, I didn't think Gwen. I thought it was
Harry, or even did you, or even Norman in some kind of weird way. But anyway, yeah.
When Harry said to Peter, "I've made something to guard us" and things like that, and I'm telling you, the thing that was weird was when Mysterio showed up with and Kraven said something like, "Man, how did you know about this and you shouldn't be here?" Well, we see in this, too, that there's a little deal with Mole Man, but it felt like it wasn't actually, the real Mysterio to me.
That's
It
right.
felt different. And I said, like,
Was
something's
that
up.
foreshadowing? There's more than one.
Yeah,
Or
it
there's more
seemed,
than one of them
when
or
we
something?
see that, and it's
I don't
switched
know.
up. So it's a crazy deal. But what you give your score?
Okay, I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm gonna go high, Jim. I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10.
I'm an 8.5 as well. I think that people are going to give this 10s out the wazoo. I know they will, but I think
Twice, maybe 3
8.5.
times now, and for me, it's my score's improved, and especially talking through it with you, I've really appreciated it a lot more. But on the negative side, there's no Spider-Man, really, is there?
Yeah, there's no Spidey, and it just kind of like gives you resets some things to go forward with this war.
Yeah.
Something that the Maker stuff, and I said at the beginning about the Maker, and the Ultimate Invasion and all this stuff. I read it. Half the time I was confused anyway, but I really just sit here. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that that's the interesting part of
As I was
this
saying before,
world.
I know I was being sarcastic and kind of half joking, but we don't even really know anything about the Maker. Where's the threat coming from him? Because you've not seen him for so long.
And again, he's just going to come out and they got to take him down. But the big play would be to reveal this is a different universe and whatnot.
Yeah.
But do we need that? And then you get the weird thing. It's the same with Absolute. With the Absolute stuff at DC, I kind of like the books. I kind of just want to have some fun, different Spider-Man, a different deal. And this gets it bigger, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure it'll be a big hit, but I'm not.
This is leaps
the Maker
and bounds, isn't it, ahead of the Amazing Spider-Man as it has been, as it still is right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when I love when people write in and give Nick Lowe crap and like, thank God we have the Amazing Spider or the Ultimate Spider-Man that you're not involved with. But I have not met anybody who said, "Oh, I don't read Ultimate Spider-Man. I like Amazing Spider-Man more." I've not met that person. Most people say this is, and really, what might play because you have the Ultimate Spider-Man. Maybe people are still reading. You could hate read the Amazing Spider-Man now and just keep up with it, not worry because you get what you want from the Ultimate. So maybe it does help out a bit, but a lot of people
we read it because we review it, don't we? Pretty much.
That's the reason.
But we're still hoping it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, and that Joe Kelly, I'm telling you, he had it at one point. I don't know where it went because he lost it because it's awful. But here we go, and I'm more even thinking of this week with that Godzilla nonsense.
Oh my God.
So ridiculous.
I was looking forward to that, with it being Spidey as well. The Spider-Man and Godzilla, come on. Because you were saying, Jim, I'm sure, Venom, the symbiote suit's going to be involved, and it could be awesome.
You knew that was
going to be really good.
Because that's what always happens. Each time, it just was weird. Now the X-Men next, we'll see. But we'll move on to the last book of the night. It is Red Hulk number 3. It is my favorite tie-in. Some people have said that they like the Thunderbolts. Some even like the Doom Division. I think Gabe might be. Did you say he was reviewing that this week?
Division? Is that the Doom Patrol mixed up with Comics Division or something?
Doom Academy. Stay clear from that thing. That was
awful.
Every month that it comes out, I page through it thinking it can't be that bad, right? Because that first issue was a slog. And then I looked at this one. I'm like, yep, it's still the same. It's still bad, but this is good. Red Hulk number 3. And why it's good is a weird play because I hate when you have tie-ins that don't really tie in. And this does, but doesn't. It's a side thing.
Well, it's kind of doing its own thing as well with a bit of Doom in the background. But Jim, you kind of joke about this event. This is number 29 of 59 issues, folks.
Just think of that. 29 issues have gone, and I don't hear any hype at all. Like nobody cares. They just don't care. So when you get this Red Hulk book, and this could just be its own thing without One World Under Doom. And in fact, I said it either when me and you talked or me and Sully, that this is the one book that almost feels like it's showing you that Doom is kind of bad. Like all the other books, he's like, no, we read people's minds. He's fine, whatever. This one almost is like he's done some things. And it does explain, why he is able to come up with a plan of, taking over the world and making peace because he ran through all these crazy scenarios with these characters. But the big play is just they're going to escape. You have really bad characters, and if they live or die, whatever, you just are going to go with it. And they had the prison escape. They got out. Ross can't become Red Hulk because he doesn't have gamma. He loses the gamma. He has to reabsorb gamma. And in the meantime, you had this huge giant Doom bot of Dooms, the craziest thing ever, that huge thing.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it, in the last issue?
Machine Man, he's out of energy. Like, they really are not well equipped to be fighting a giant
down and out.
Doom.
Deathlock struggling. Dr. Simon Riker. Can you trust him?
Riker's just a jerk. What a jerk. And so you do get a beginning, and you do have an explanation of that Ross, while they were there in Doom's prison running simulations, he says that he's always running simulations. And this reminds me, there's a deal of visualization in sports. Like you think of, okay, I do this, I do that. You have that a lot with the sports psychology.
What if this happens? What if this plays out?
Yeah, and then positivity and things like that. And so when he does that, he works through scenarios. Like if I was ever in Latveria, I'd do this, this, and this. And he says it's almost like a satellite in his head. He knows things. So it is kind of a, maybe a little forced, but it works for me. Where he says, now that we got out, I have to gamma up, and I know that they're 100 clicks away. There is a power plant that we could go and I could get gammaed up. And they're like, how do you know? He's like, my head is a map. I know it. And then you end up where I think it is, Deathlock is like, that's confirmed.
Don't think, Jim. Bruce Lee. He's feeling the nuclear power.
So they're going to go do that, but they have to get away from this crazy giant statue. I don't know if this thing can even move.
Monster, monolith. God.
It feels like those pictures that they make out of other little pictures. Like you have John Lennon and it's a bunch of different John Lennon. Like those things amaze me that you could even do that. But it just looks like maybe it's all for show. But all these Doombots do kind of separate and they're going to come after them. And so they go to run like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? Well, let's stay together and go. The problem is Riker just runs and pushes Ross over the
It's hilarious. This really made me laugh. He's like, we're outmanned, we're outgunned, we're poorly positioned. With respect. Push, shove. He shoves Ross off.
What a jerk. And Riker's like, okay, well, I think that we're really bad off, and just pushes him.
Our only chance of survival is splitting up, but that's a bit extreme, Jim, isn't it? Pushing somebody off a cliff. He could have just gone the other way.
I think this is a distraction that all the Doombots are going to go try to save Ross.
I see. It must be.
But the best is, though, is...
Good luck to you all, he says.
Yeah, really. He goes, good luck. Riker goes, where's he jumping? He's like jumping the crazy deal, and he gets zapped. He looks like he's dead.
I thought he got hit by lightning initially, but it's not. It must be a Doombot, isn't it?
It'd be funny if you had that deal and it looked more like the Dark Knight. And then he gets hit because he is jumping like that, and then he gets zapped. I think that's the joke. But you have the Doombots go to get him. Now, in that, the funniest thing I saw in this issue is that Ross is falling down. I mean, how could he survive? He's falling down this mountain. Deathlock looks... He has Machine Man on his shoulder and just decides to jump off and tumble down. It's not even like he's jumping thinking, okay, I could land there or whatever. He just starts tumbling down.
Jim? It's a leap of faith. No, it's not. It's a leap of madness.
It's crazy. He throws himself off and starts tumbling down, right? He's going to hit Ross. And then you end up where it's like, I like where Ross is like, Deathlock, try for the snowfield blow. What else are you going to do? You flip it around and stuff. So they're going, they land, and even Deathlock says, oh, my God, that's going to be an avalanche. That's what they're hoping for.
Causing an avalanche, yeah. How are they going to survive it, though, Jim? That's what they're hoping for.
I don't know. That
You're dead, mate, if that happens.
Yeah, and so you see one foot sticking out of Ross, and Deathlock is able to go grab him, and now they have to keep going, and they say that we're under a bit of cover so that we can kind of get out of here. But they still are, in Latveria, they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. And that's where you have at the United Nations General Assembly. Now, again, we've seen these scenes. This is where at some point, either before or after, but it almost feels like we should have the Fantastic Four busting through like the Kool-Aid Man and fight. But at no point, this looks so much more ominous when he's sitting in that chair and staring than we've seen in the main event, because
it's
in
great.
This
It's
book,
really good art here. It's Jeff Shaw, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot. So
he looks like a real menacing villain here.
So he's there and, saying this is what's going to go on. You're going to accept peace. This is how it is. Wait a minute. I got a call. Oh, crap. I got to recess. I'm going to head out for a little. And he has to go and do something.
There's a matter that requires my immediate attention.
And they were running this scenario so they could get, okay, if this happened, which he was running them so that he can then do a world peace type thing. He would know all the variables and whatnot. In the meantime, though, his plan might look worse if these characters get out and tell people. If Ross announces, hey, I was in a prison. And remember when they left, they think there could still be thousands of prisoners. This thing was level after level. So the whole play is he's got to stop them before they get out. It's not just the idea of, we need them to run those simulations again. I think that might be over. But Ross is like, we got to get out of here. We got to take the fight to Doom. But again, if that happens, that kind of throws a wrench in this one world under Doom. So they're thinking of what they can do. And I like they get attacked by Doombots. And poor Machine Man, he's depowered. And Deathlock uses him as like a blunt instrument of attack. He whips him around.
It's so much fun, this issue. I'm having an absolute blast with it. Benjamin Percy, whatever you say, I know you say he can't smile, but he's having a good time.
Yeah, I think he might be having a good time for once. Or he thinks this is badass, but to us it's funny. That happens a lot with him.
We almost get like a weird kind of predator, the new one, the prey, the kind of like primal, what do you call it? Oh my God, Native American Indian attack here. We've got Ross going for the old antler attack through the eye.
The antler. It's like that. I don't know why, because I didn't see the movie, but I was thinking of that Leonardo DiCaprio movie with the bears.
Oh, when he gets
like
bear
the Revenant or whatever the deal.
Yeah.
Like that's what it reminded me of. But yeah, he goes full out, like you said, prey, and stabs this Doombot through the face, and then it blows up, and then he yells, "If you can hear me, I'm coming for Doom." And it blows up. I like that
it's flying through the air.
His head goes flying. And then they're trying to figure out what they can do. Poor Machine Man is just ripped apart. He's being used as a weapon. And again, they get to another cliff. And, I thought he was going to say, I didn't kill my wife. And then, Deathlock would say, I don't care. And then he jumped, just like in The Fugitive. But he ends up where they're there. And they're like, what are we going to do? And he's like, you see this way? And the idea, there's no way he could survive this, it feels. And then Deathlock, the pewter, says he ain't going to survive if he gets down there. If he doesn't bash his head in or whatever.
He's jumping for that river, yeah. Jumping for the river. Just goes for it, a slow motion Sylvester Stallone leap through the air.
It would be funny because they see it from up here. And then when they go down, they don't realize it's solid frozen ice and then just splat. But they
just splatted on the surface. That would be hilarious, Jim.
Oh, it'd be the greatest. And so I also just look as Deathlock jumps, it again is just towing by the cable arm for the most part. Machine Man behind. Machine Man, when he ends up getting charged up.
Missing an arm.
It reminds me, I wish that he had a little bit, because then he could just yell stuff like C-3PO did when Chewbacca was running around with him like a backpack. But he ends up, hey, we're going to get Hulk back on the battlefield. And if he does, he says, nobody's going to be able to stop that. So they're heading towards trying to get to this power plant. So Doom takes a recess at the UN, goes through a portal, and ends up, because he is the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, it's one of those, that's right, Doctor Strange's portals.
Yeah, so he ends up coming out and like, where is he? We don't know, but the way that it looks like we ended up hearing him talk, and Surveillance is said, we'll get to this.
There's a nuclear power plant 100 clicks from here.
Yeah. So in that, Doom says, because the Doombots are like, hey, I like the Doombots. He just gets mad at them. But the Doombots are like, hey, we're going to go guard that place, right? And he's like, guard it. I'm the Sorcerer Supreme. I'm going to wipe this thing off the face of the earth. And so he could just, you would think, just snap his finger and do something. So we'll see what that means.
I just see that there's kind of like weird green glowing either mist or power, energy like coming from him. Is he about to do a massive spell, Jim?
That's what it looks like, that he's just going to blast it. Now, in the meantime, this is a longer series. So it's not like, we're finishing next issue. So, if this happens and it does get wiped out, we still have plenty of time.
It's listed until issue 6 at least, isn't it? It says here, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what month is that? Is that July?
That's going to be July, yeah. So
I hear that it's
July.
Here it's a 10-issue series, or it's an ongoing, but some people are saying it'll probably end at 10. But so it's going to be going for a while. So it's not as if you have to like resolve it next issue.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed the last issue too.
And you have bad characters, like bad guys, but they're trying to escape from a worse guy, Doom. And it's kind of funny. And Deathlock, I don't love Deathlock. as a solo character, but I like when he's with people, and I like Ross.
He's good in a team.
Yeah, it's you know, right. And Riker he moans when he goes. I don't know if he's quite dead, so he might show back up.
I just love the way he just doesn't give a crap.
Yeah, it's just like he pushes him.
Ross off
like
the
he
cliff.
just pushes him and runs the opposite way.
It's really
he just
funny.
runs, right? It's just so ridiculous. But what would you give it?
I'm going positive again. I really, really enjoyed it for the fun factor, for the crazy villain moments. I'm going for 8 out of 10.
Yeah, what is this? We're the same scores. I'm an 8 as well.
No
At some
way.
point, I might have to tell my score first, because I think people are like, man, he's just trying to get on Gray's good set.
You copy my
I'll
score
give
with
it
that,
an 8.1. I do
Okay.
really like it. I think it's really good. And people, if you haven't been reading it, or if you're not reading One World Under Doom, that doesn't matter. Just check it out. Maybe wait for it on the app or whatnot.
Issue. It's only issue 3, isn't it? You can catch up really quickly. You've got successively better with each issue, and really, really good, really fun.
I never would have thought that it was something. Oh man, even the premise, I was like, eh. But
Well,
I
thanks
think
to
it's
Sully,
really good.
and you for shouting out the first issue, because Sully was saying, check it out, it's good, but he does say that about a lot of things.
Yeah, he says that about it. It's Jeff. There's an It's Jeff. I think
There's
like
the
a
land
trade
shot.
this week, and he's all into that. But yeah, he likes a lot of stuff that's really not the greatest. But this one, he asked me to review with him that first issue, and I like it. I like it. It's one of my favorite books.
You guys put it on my radar. Nice one.
I don't have a lot of big books at Marvel that I'm loving, so I always, whatever, if there's something that I like, I'll definitely, pick it up and read it. So I do like this. We'll continue on, and I am going to check out the Thunderbolts this week, and also that Doom Division, to see if maybe there'll be some other things we can add. I know that sometimes you just add things. If I went by fully, hey, I'm not going to talk about the things I don't like we'd never talk Amazing Spider-Man, One World of Doom done, and that stupid Godzilla Spider-Man drive me nuts even still. I just imagine
So
Nick Lowe
disappointed,
thinking
Jim.
he's so hilarious with those editor's notes. It was just way too much. But that is it. That is it for the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Gray, for joining me at the end here and joining me in general, because we are expanding the coverage. The shows will get a bit longer. I think last week's was almost 2 hours. It's not quite 7.5 yet. But I think this one's going to be, maybe even more than 2 hours. So that's something we haven't had in a while. We ended up having more of a spotlight deal. And the reason why we called it on the regular feed a spotlight is because we were struggling to find a lot of books to talk about. And even when if you want to keep, hey, I don't want to talk about everything I hate. When you do a number 1 issue and you don't like it, we usually would drop it. But we'll keep with things. Me and Jason, who we talked about the Kitty Pryde Wolverine, didn't really love it, but we're going to continue with that and maybe pick up some new number 1s and stuff like that. So with all that, and I guess, are you looking forward to the Chip Zdarsky Captain America? Because I am. I think that's
I
gonna
am
be pretty
kind
cool.
of, yeah. And you know what, Jim? I'm taking on another challenge like I am with DC and doing the Flash, Cyrus Spurrier. With the upcoming release of the Fantastic Four, the new movie, I'm actually going to start reading Ryan North's Fantastic
maybe
Four.
I will. People like
if
it.
it's as bad as some people have said, or if it's as good as
some
people have said.
hate it. Some people love it.
Yeah.
I jump in at some points, and it's a lot of one-shot feels and stuff like that. But another book that I really don't like, that maybe we'll get to, is The Immortal Thor. I'm not really liking that.
Okay, yeah, that's another one. Which, again, I've heard positive things about it.
Yeah, people seem to really like it. I'm not a huge Al Ewing fan, but maybe I'll try to catch up with that. Maybe me and you could talk about that. But we're talking Hulk and stuff like that, which is cool. People like that. But with all of that,
Just
I hope
before we
everybody
finish, to plug the Weird Science Marvel comics blog site, the review site. There will be a Fantastic Four 31 review up on there to go with Gabe's 3 reviews as well. So do check that out.
And it's Weird Science Comics, WeirdScienceMarvelComics.com. It'll be in the show notes. Also, plug your channel, Greg, before we go.
Oh, what's this? Is Wacky Zashi's Tea House? What's that all about?
I don't know.
Gracious.
But yeah, that'll be in the thing. Go see Gray's deal, and he's getting a Fantastic Four review there together, right?
Yeah. It's a short one, yeah.
You'll have that as well. So that'll be cool. Go check it out. It's in the show notes. And with that, though, I will get going. I'm going to go to bed. Keto my ass to bed, as I said earlier.
Just don't eat any pork scratchings before you go to bed, Jim. You'll have nightmares.
I'm doing the intermittent fasting, so I got to wait until noon to eat. I'm not starving, but I'm getting hungry, and I think if I take a nap, it'll just pass the time. That's my time travel. going to time travel to 12 and then eat and drink my bulletproof coffee. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. They're like, this guy's a nut. But with all that, and speaking of nut, I do end up having some almond milk that I'm going to have later, too. So that I just made a segue.
You are.
So that is it. That is it for all of this. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. And if you want to email us at any point, email us at weirdsciencemarvelcomics@gmail.com. Maybe even tell us what books that we should be covering or what books you like. And then if we get some mail, we'll have a mail section as well. We never really pushed it on the Marvel deal, but what the hey? We're going to go full bore forward with that. And with that all, we'll talk to you later.
If you're wondering what's going on in this week's Marvel comic books, we will spotlight some of the things that suck, but also whatever cooks. But if you give us too much shit, we'll just get pissed.